BioShock turns 18 years old this year, so now BioShock can walk on down to the 7-Eleven, buy some scratchy lotteries and a pack of smokes, and tell you what, that makes me feel very old. This was the first game with like really heavy themes and like a really concentrated narrative that I played when I was younger. And so I was thinking, does BioShock still hold up as well as I remember it holding up when I first played it 18 years ago? One of the key strengths of BioShock, I think, is how it begins. These two missions, I think, beautifully introduce the world. It introduces your primary antagonist of the game, gives you something to care about, and it gives you a reason to want to get out of there. In order to talk about this, I'm going to be using some charts and graphs to kind of show how the time is distributed in these first two missions. We'll be using this pie chart here, as well as beneath it, there's like this, it's like there, this timeline that shows you when each type of gameplay on the pie chart is happening throughout these first two missions, which last about 26 minutes. We got 4 different types of gameplay. Cutscenes, we all know what a cutscene is. Tutorial gameplay, we all know what a tutorial is. Pretty straightforward. And then we got core gameplay. I define this as when the game has given you all the basics and you're kind of just in the world, free to kind of play the game how you see fit. Walking simulator is kind of the squishiest of these terms. It's when the game is holding you back and not really letting you fully play it. It's like kind of guiding you through a section where maybe you can only interact with some stuff, or you can't leave like a certain hallway, or you have to kind of watch a scene play out in front of you. It's not real gameplay. It's not necessarily a cutscene because you have some control, and it's kind of squishy. Of all 4 of these, it's the squishiest. So there's definitely some debate as to what I'm calling a walking sim. As you can see by the pie chart before we get into the game, pretty evenly distributed. Tutorial gameplay is the smallest section, which I think is great because no one loves tutorials. They're necessary, but like we don't love them. And then the other 3 sections are almost perfectly evenly distributed. 27 is the lowest, 35 is the highest, and core gameplay has the plurality here, and that's what we want. We want to be playing the game the most. That's what we're into. But I do like how evenly distributed it is. It's a very nice little graphic. Isn't it? Our pie chart's fun. BioShock gets you right into it. You're led into by a title card saying you're over the mid-Atlantic in the 1960s. You're on an airplane. This guy's talking about how he's going to be great, or at least his parents told him he was going to be great. We then cut immediately to a title card, and then we hear the sounds of a plane crash in the background. We're then underwater. Disoriented, not really sure what's going on. You swim to the surface and you're immediately greeted by the scene of fire. The plane is down. Notably, all you hear is fire and splish splashing around and distant burning. You don't hear any screams. You don't see anybody else. So you are kind of like, man, I think I'm the only one that made it out of this. You swim for a little bit and you're greeted by this incredible sight of this massive monolithic lighthouse looking down on you. The only safe haven maybe you can go to. You walk up the stairs, you turn back to look at this sea of fire behind you. Again, you don't hear anything. It's dead silent out here. And so you're like, I guess I'm the only one that made it. Time to see what's going on with this lighthouse. You walk into the lighthouse through this cracked door. It's pitch black. The door slams shut behind you, and you get this great sound effect of all the lights turning on. Gentle music starts playing in the background. It's a kind of a warm place. However, there's this very ominous statue looking down at you with a banner underneath it that reads, "No gods or kings, only man." And already this statue is kind of like in conflict with itself. It is a statue of clearly a specific man. It doesn't seem just like a random dude. It looks like it's modeled after somebody. And it's saying no gods or kings, only man, but it's certainly seeming like this guy's putting himself or elevating himself above everybody. In this moment, he literally is elevated above you as a giant statue looking down on you. We move down the stairs and find this big spherical submarine looking thing. This is the bathysphere. This bathysphere is all you got down here. There's a lovely tune emanating the area, so you think, hey, I'm gonna get in this and see what happens. It's also a video game, so what else are you gonna do? Not play it? You get in the bathysphere and then you're immediately locked in place and you begin this long cutscene. You can spin the camera, but that's it, so I'm not calling it a walking sim, I'm calling it a cutscene. The bathysphere begins descending deeper and deeper. Eventually a screen pops up in front of you after a brief advertisement for some kind of fire fingertip thing. What's up with that? A man starts talking to you about a dream he had, and this guy looks a lot like the guy from that big statue before. He tells you how the world, the government, the religions, all those things, they're terrible and they're trying to take everything from you, and that all you should be concerned about is what you can create, and he had to build a place where governments couldn't interfere And the name of the city is, of course, Rapture. And we get this incredible reveal of this beautiful underwater city. Still looks great all these years later. The score is this heavy industrial tone that sweeps in.
City where the artist would not fear the censor, where the scientist would not be bound by petty morality, where the great would not be constrained by the small.
And then the score turns almost kind of whimsical and magical, like, wow, look at this incredible place we are. You see a whale swim by, he's like, hello, I'm a whale. The city, from what we're seeing now, seems like it's functioning, like everything's going well, which is why the score is giving us this kind of whimsical, kind of magical vibe for a moment, going, hey, look at this place, like this is incredible. It's this underwater city. We then get our first sign that things aren't going great when we get a bit of a frantic message on our radio. And then as we move into the bathysphere station, we see that all good things flow into the city, and city glitches out, saying, hey, the city might not be okay. That's BioShock. That's the level titled BioShock. And then we move into Welcome to Rapture. Welcome to Rapture starts and the tone immediately shifts. We go from this beautiful underwater city environment, and then the bathysphere rises up into this dark, unlit station. We see who must be the guy from the radio being stalked by some kind of creature. Seems like a person, but maybe not. They attack this man, send him into the water. They then jump on our bathysphere and disable it. It's all kind of scary. And we're immediately like, okay, clearly this city's not all right. Things are going bad immediately. We also know we're trapped here. There's nothing we can do. So we grab this radio to start talking to the man that Johnny was talking to and hopefully figure out how we're going to get out of this.
I'm Atlas, and I aim to keep you alive. Now keep on moving. We're going to have to get you to higher ground.
As we move through the terminal, the windows begin opening up. We see how beautiful it still is in this place despite the horror that has started to seep into it. We also see a lot of protest signs, picket signs strewn about saying things like, we're not your property, Ryan doesn't own us, let us out of this city. So things clearly didn't go well in this man's utopian vision. Atlas, the man on the radio, wants to get us to higher ground, so we keep moving up. Atlas briefly scares away this splicer. We aren't really sure what their deal is, but they don't seem super friendly. We then get our first weapon, this delightful pipe wrench, which is going to be with us for the rest of the game. Bash through this concrete to get through the fireplace. This guy throws a couch at us, and then it's time to fight him. This is our first fight. We beat the crap out of him with a wrench. The combat in this game still very satisfying. Got a great, like, weighty, meaty sound, this wrench. We kill this guy. He's a thuggish splicer. We go, okay, so the splicers are just like these citizens that have kind of gone off the rails and are attacking everything. We look around this area for a bit, eventually being kind of led up the staircase to a big kind of vending machine. I mean, we're going to interact with it because what else are we going to do? It's a video game. This is our first plasmid. It's a bit of a kick, and you get knocked off of this balcony and are unconscious for a little bit. While you're unconscious, we get another cutscene where a few people swing by. We get these two delightful characters. I love these guys, and I quote them all the time, and no one ever knows what I'm talking about. And I'm like, oh, you don't know the two splices from the beginning of BioShock? You don't. That's not one of your references. That's not one of your reference points. Is these two unnamed characters from the beginning of an 18-year-old game.
Yellow always have been. You'll be no better off with Metal Daddy, little fish.
These two are scared off by what they say is a Metal Daddy. They also seem to be interested in Adam, whatever that is. You're then greeted by the Metal Daddy and this creepy little girl with a big syringe with like a baby bottle on it. She seems to be ready to harvest something from you, but it's put off because you're still alive. And then they leave.
He's still breathing. It's all right. I know he'll be an angel soon.
What all this means, we're not sure yet. You then stand up an unspecified amount of time later, and now you have a newfound power. You can shoot electricity out of one of your hands. Pretty cool, right? You use that electricity to open up this door here, and then you move into this hallway where it is immediately struck by the tail section of your plane. You make your way through that. This whole section of tunneling starts falling apart. Water starts flowing in everywhere. Doors start bursting at the seams, kind of showing you that Rapture is, I know it got hit by a plane, but like it isn't able to really handle much more stress. The city is starting to fall apart. After this, move to the next area. More flooding abound here, and then you see a splicer run by. Atlas tells you, hey, if you shock them and then whack them, it'll work really well. So you do that, bing boom. I call that kind of the last section tutorial, kind of showing you how to use your plasmids in conjunction with your wrench in a fight. And then after this encounter, I think we're at core gameplay. It took us about 14 minutes, 12 seconds to get to core gameplay. It's not as fast as some other games. I do like a game that just starts, but it's pretty good for like a really long narrative game. We fight off some more splicers, and then we move into this next room where we get into an elevator to get to even higher ground. We start listening to Atlas. Atlas gives us a bit of a sob story with this very sad violin in the background, saying that his family is trapped in Rapture and he's got to get him out, and you're going to help him, and he'll help you get out of here if you do that.
I know you must feel like the unluckiest man in the world right now, but you're the only hope I'll ever see my wife and child again.
It's very simple storytelling. You're trapped here. This guy's telling you a way to get out if you do this thing. Easy peasy, let's do it. You're kind of in the same shoes as your character. Later in the game, we might learn some other stuff. You get to the top of the elevator, and you encounter another splicer. This one is talking over baby carriage, describing what seems like her losing her baby. So you walk up and deal with her and find a gun in the carriage. So yeah, people aren't doing great here. So now we've got our second weapon. Now we've got a melee weapon, we've got a gun. Great, like core gameplay, we're cooking, baby. Let's do it. This next section, we move into this club. We see a bunch of signs for New Year's 1959. We know from the beginning that it's 1960. So we know it's been at least a year that Rapture has been in this state, because they would obviously have changed the signs out otherwise. You move through this area and we encounter some splicers arguing through a door. Take these people out, steal their money, steal their stuff, classic BioShock stuff. After exiting the room the woman was in, there's a couple splicers splashing about in the water, and Atlas says, hey, shock the water with your electricity and it'll take them out, Water's pretty conductive, if you hadn't heard. Kind of shows us that there is some interactability to this world where your tools can be used on the environment as well as the enemies themselves. And this is when we start to find audio recordings, which are another key component of this game. There's tons of these audio recordings left around. We even see a big advertisement for them in this section to kind of say like, hey, it's totally normal that people would record all their thoughts on these boxes because look at this ad. How convincing. Wouldn't you want to do that? We hear a story from Diane McClintock, one of the early audio diary characters, who talks about being sad on New Year's, that she's left by Andrew Ryan, and that he didn't show up for their New Year's date. Maybe because he was dealing with something else, as right after this, gunshots and violence are heard. Seems like there was some kind of attack during the New Year's party. And so maybe there was some kind of uprising, some kind of revolution that took place. We don't really know. We get very brief snips of this at this point in the game. We move back upstairs and continue into the bathrooms. We see this woman in some kind of ghostly projection saying she's too spliced up. No one's going to want her anymore. We're not really sure where this ghostly image is coming from, but there's some kind of energy left in this place and we're seeing it. We get this audio diary from a man talking about a hole in someone's bathroom wall.
And all I can think about is the stink coming out of your shitter.
So we go, okay, I guess I should go check that out. And then moving through the hole in the wall, once we find it, we are told to lower our weapons, and we get this walking simulator section where we see the creepy little girl from earlier, maybe the same one, maybe not, stabbing a body with her big syringe. Atlas lets us know that this is a little sister, and that they harvest the genetic material, Adam, that keeps Rapture running.
Those little sisters, they carry Adam, the genetic material that keeps the wheels of Rapture turning. Everybody wants it, everybody needs it.
And speaking of everybody wanting it, this guy walks in and says, hey, my lucky day, little sister, I'm gonna take care of business and get me some Adam. He tries to sneak up on her, she screams, he then attacks her, and then we hear a distant roar. We see the metal daddy from earlier, again, maybe the same one, jump down and take care of business himself on this guy. He messes him up big time. This scene's pretty awesome, and you watch it all through this pane of glass as this guy is just taken to task for attacking this little girl. He winds up through the window, and Atlas lets you know that's the big daddy. She gathers the Adam. he protects her. So great, we have some explanation on what the hell these things were that we saw earlier, and that they are kind of the key to this genetic modification system that seems to be happening in Rapture. So I'm sure we're going to be dealing with them later. We move through this locked gate, head down the corridor, have some more fights with some more splicers. We see a dead Big Daddy on the ground, so we know these things can be killed. If it bleeds, we can kill it. Atlas wants us to get to Neptune's bounty, so we head that way. But a fire turret springs up and a gate closes. We're locked out. An alarm starts sounding. So we can't get to Neptune bounty this way. The alarm's raging. We kill a bunch of splicers who jump into this very conveniently placed water, which we can shock with our electrobolt. Also shoot them, wrench them, whatever we got to do to defend ourselves. This first big combat encounter of the game, really. Putting all of our skills to use. Eventually, Atlas gets to us and say that it's Ryan. It's goddamn Andrew Ryan.
It's Ryan! Goddamn Andrew Ryan! Found him! Damn it! They shut off access to Neptune. There's another way to get there. Head to medical.
So you find that door, run down this hallway, and are about to head into Medical Pavilion when the door slams shut in front of you. Atlas said he's going to try to override it, and all the lights turn off. As you stand in the dark, you see some flickering lights appear behind you. You turn around and you're greeted by a massive TV behind a glass wall with an image of Andrew Ryan greeting you. He is wearing a hat dipped over his eyes. He's behind a glass wall, and he's on a TV, very removed from the situation. I think this is a great moment of saying, like, hey, this proud man with his massive statue and his banner and is sitting in his chair smoking a cigarette, telling you all about his wonderful city. This is what he's been reduced to, a man hiding behind so many layers and who's incredibly paranoid about the state of his city and who's coming to take it from him.
Which one of the bitches sent you? The KGB wolf or the CIA jackal?
He eventually says this is his city, and then he seems to sick a bunch of splicers on you, meaning that he seems to have control over them, as evident also by them attacking you earlier during the alarm. The glass wall starts to shatter as the splicers beat on it, but luckily Atlas gets the door open just in the nick of time. You see the light flood in, and you shoot off to Medical Pavilion. And that's the end of the first 2 levels. See all that time broken down here, front-loaded with exposition, backloaded with gameplay, with exposition kind of littered throughout by the audio diaries and the radio transmissions from Atlas. I feel like this game does an incredible job of utilizing your time, distributing it out kind of evenly across the 3 big types of gameplay I have here, only giving you a little bit of tutorialization. You're also given a ton of context for the city you find yourself in. Massive city built by this seemingly eccentric millionaire type who built it at the bottom of the sea as a haven for strong individuals like himself. You learn the city has fallen into disarray because of some kind of revolution or attack. You learn it's been in this state for about a year. You learn that everyone's turned on Andrew Ryan, that there was protests, that he seems to be controlling everything now, that he's been reduced to this paranoid kind of dictator sitting behind monitors and having all of the splicers do his bidding for him. We know that there's genetic material that's up for grabs. We know there's genetic modification happening. We know the little sisters and the big daddies are the key to this. We also know there's no way for us to get out of here aside from maybe listening to the only person that hasn't tried to kill us yet, because the bathysphere is gone. Obviously, this game has a lot of twists and turns. It's not as straightforward as the stakes this level establishes, but everything here sets you up to want to keep going. And I think the gameplay in this game holds up really well. It looks great. It's an interesting art style. It's an interesting world to explore. Go play BioShock, one of the best-selling, highest reviewed games of all time. I guess that's my point for this video, is BioShock's good and you should play it. I don't know. I just want to talk about BioShock, man. I love this game. In the last video I talked a lot about 9 Souls and compared it to Hollow Knight. And a lot of people in the comments were like, hey, you gotta play the game more. You gotta get past the 25 minutes or whatever that you put into it. And so I'm doing that. I'm playing it and I'm recording it all. Bought a capture card. You see it right there. And I'm gonna do something with that footage. What that is, I don't know. Some kind of follow-up video to see if the game wins me back, or maybe like a more comprehensive kind of deep dive review of the game. I don't really know what I'm gonna do with it yet, but I know that I'm gonna make something out of it. Anyways, that's my video. Hope you enjoyed it. I'm trying to get like 1 video out a month. So if you want to see more of these, give us a like, give us a subscribe, and yeah, thank you so much for watching. Have a nice day, and go play BioShock.